Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 11 of Ride the Illusion podcast.
We are back,
We
baby.
are back. We are back.
It's been a hot minute.
I was going to say, it's been a minute. Is that what the kids say nowadays?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's actually been 6 months, okay?
Yeah.
So it hasn't been a minute. But
it's been a little bit more than that.
A little bit more than that. It has been a while, hasn't it? So
It's been a while since we've both been sitting in this room, honestly.
I know. And
So.
I mean, we've had conversations, of course, in 6 months, but it's been a while since we've been here and we've been recording. So I am one of your co-hosts, Rose, and sitting here next to me is my esteemed son, Orion.
Esteemed
son.
Yes, I am Orion. Also, starting from this episode, we're going to be posting these episodes on YouTube. So some of you may know me by the name of Captain Ale over there.
Oh, yeah.
That's the new YouTube channel that I've gotten going in our absence.
Yes.
So it's just getting started.
And check it out, seriously.
So, yeah, and again, that's where I will be doing all kinds of crazy shit, and that's where all episodes of Ride the Illusion podcast will be uploaded, along with being on Spotify as normal. So you'll have 2 places to watch them.
Awesome.
And two places to yell at us for getting shit wrong, and stuff like that.
Hey, we get shit right to the best of our ability. Well, I'm Gen X. Orion is Gen Z. And if you're not familiar with our podcast, it came from both of us loving Metallica and Guns N' Roses and the conversations that we have about music. I absolutely love music. Orion here is a musician himself.
Yep.
And we just have all kinds of conversations about music. And we thought it would be fun to come up with a podcast that shows 2 generations' perspectives on the same music, the same bands.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It was actually Rose over here that came up with the idea to have a podcast, which was surprising to me because it's not something I expected her to it was not an idea I expected her to bring to me. But
well, a broken clock is right twice a day, so hey.
Well, hey, I mean, I will continuously give you credit for getting out of your comfort zone with this, and it's been a great experience.
It has been
so far,
and we missed it. So
yeah.
So let's say a little bit about why we took so long to come back. So
yes, the reason of absence.
The reasons
here.
of absence. So if you listened to our last episode, we said that we would be back on September 11th of this year to start our 2nd season.
Yep.
Well, obviously that did not happen, and
right.
There's a few reasons why. First of all, I ended up getting a new job, and while it's not super stressful, it does take up time during the week. Yeah. Time that I initially used to prep for podcast episodes. And when you start out at a new place, as you know, you have an orientation time to get used to things, get used to a new schedule. Then you're tired because I'm old. I get tired easily. If you have a change in hours, I get up a little bit earlier than I used to.
Yeah.
Things like that. So that's what's been consuming me mostly for the past 3 months, in addition to just life itself, doing shit around the house, appointments, my writing, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And to be very honest with you, I was burned out when we finished our last episode in June.
Yeah, and that I think is because one of the big changes, like we're kind of loosely calling this season 2, but from now on, we're just kind of numbering episodes.
Yeah, we're gonna go back through Spotify and just number our episodes to make it easier to follow.
We're doing things a bit differently this time around to make it easier on us and maybe even a easier listening experience for you. Because as much fun as our first batch of episodes was, they got kind of thick.
Yeah,
there was a lot of information there, and we were doing an episode every other week, and which was a lot with how much research and stuff we had to do for them. So we're changing things up here in our next batch of episodes, where we're not going to be as heavy on information. It's going to be more of us just kind of talking about music we want to talk about when we want to talk about it.
Absolutely.
We're kind of aiming for an episode or 2 a month, so lighter schedule. But hey, if we get an idea that hey, we could jump on the podcast and talk about this for an hour, then we may even get 3 episodes out a month.
Yeah, especially if there's all types of music news going on, especially if something big happens, which some big things have been happening.
Yeah. So, but that's just kind of it's kind of how we're going to change things a bit going forward, to just kind of be a little bit more almost a little bit more fun with it. I mean, not that we didn't have fun.
I was gonna say the first
at the beginning. The first season was very
fun.
It
was a lot of fun, but yes, it was very research
to avoid the burnout and avoid the like information overload.
Yeah.
And plus, like you and me, we can just kind of have a conversation in front of the microphone.
Absolutely.
Instead of having to read a shitload of notes.
Now, hey, I like research, okay?
Well, okay, don't get me wrong. It was, it was nice learning new stuff, right?
I love to learn new stuff.
Yeah, no, that was
And my goal is to educate. Yeah. I was a college professor in a former life, so,
In a former life.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though. What I found out is doing a podcast is a lot of work. So those of you who do podcasts out there and you don't have, especially if you don't have like a team of researchers and things like that.
Newfound respect.
I mean, seriously, my hat is off to you
because both of us really like before this, we kind of poo-pooed podcast a bit, I think.
I kind of did to a certain degree. I'm sorry I did.
And it's, like everybody has a podcast type of thing.
Yeah. Well, because anybody...
And
I don't want to say like anybody can talk.
Anybody can talk. Anybody can do it. Like that was our original kind of take on it. But having done it ourselves in the format that we were doing it, like, okay, man, this is a lot of work.
Yeah. Doing research, writing up scripts, practicing, getting all of our equipment set up, recording it. Upload. I mean, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of hours out of your week.
It could really be considered a part-time job of 20 to 25 hours a week. Yeah. I think anyway, depending on what you're doing.
Especially in this day and age. You know, content creator is a genuine job.
I would believe that. And for a while I was like, a content creator, what is,
Yeah, it's pretty wild, but it's the way things are. Now you can make a living off of this type of stuff. I mean,
and since I got introduced to VTubers, thanks to Orion here, I am really learning what it takes to make content, to actually truly be a content creator, and
another branch of content creation.
Oh wow, VTubers are just so cool. So our goal here is to still educate, but not go as deep. Still expound upon our love for music, talk about the bands and the music that we absolutely love. Our focus, we'll still heavily feature our two favorite bands, Metallica and Guns N' Roses.
Absolutely.
But we're going to branch out to other bands that we love. As you can see today, if you read the title, we're focusing on Nirvana's In Utero album, 30th Anniversary versus the original.
Yes. So for those unaware, there was a 30th anniversary remaster.
Say what?
Yes, it's been 30 years. Thank you for the very 90s response.
Oh my God. But see, that's what brought this podcast back, okay? In Utero is what brought this podcast back, folks.
Yeah.
Because Orion came up to me one day and very casually asked me if I had heard the 30th anniversary edition of In Utero. And I literally stopped and stared at you with my mouth hanging open.
Yeah.
Because
30
years? I'm like, no. 30 years. I had to go Google it. Believe me, I remember when In Utero came out. I'm going to talk about that here later on. But 30 years?
No, that wouldn't have been till 90...
Wait a minute.
Shit.
Yeah. I did that with Unplugged, though. Nirvana Unplugged the other night. I'm going through and they're like, Nirvana Unplugged, 30 years. I'm like, what?
No, that wouldn't have been until 93. Fuck.
Could I be any older? All right.
It's very strange, though. Like all those 90s albums that are getting 30th anniversary stuff now, because like, Green Day's Dookie is 30 years old
in 94
next year, and they've already done some stuff for the 30th anniversary, and they're releasing a special vinyl and shit like that. It's pretty wild.
And even like TV shows, next year it'll be 30 years since the show Friends premiered. Yeah.
Rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
Oh my God. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wild, man.
So where has
the time
gone?
Okay. But that type of sentiment, like where is time gone? That is kind of a part of what brought the podcast back as well, because it's
absolutely
wow. These things are getting to this age. Let's talk about them.
Let's talk about it. I mean, we weren't around when it came time for the 30th anniversary of the Black Album or the Illusions albums. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm sorry it took me so long to get the idea for this podcast because we could have whole episodes on that. But I'm like you, Orion. Let's not waste time. Let's talk about these albums, about how great they are. Oh yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on Green Day's Dookie 30th anniversary.
Absolutely.
Next year. We'll do that next year.
One of my personal favorite albums.
I think it's my favorite Green Day album. But
that's fair.
Yeah. But for now, we're gonna talk about Nirvana. We're gonna go through track by track here, and we're just gonna talk about the original versus the remaster. We're not gonna grade them or rate them or anything like that. I have some fun facts though, because you can't take the researcher out of me. You just can't.
See, for this next little season, I've left all the researching to Rose over here.
And just little fun facts.
I'm being a lazy employee.
Little fun, a lazy employee. Little fun facts. And we also want to tell you, we still have metal messages. We're still going to be talking about all types of music news as well.
Look forward to that at the end of the episode.
We have a lot too. All right, but let's get into
Let's begin.
Nirvana's In Utero. Let's talk about the first song, Serve the Servants.
Serve the Servants. Man, from that very first just opening chord, I mean, that's you start this album with a bang.
It just hits you like a ton of bricks.
It really does. Like,
honestly.
You press play when you put this album on Spotify, on the CD player, wherever you have it, be in your Walkman.
That's what I did.
If you're that old.
Yes.
And you remember cassette tapes.
Yes.
You are met with no dead noise beforehand. You are just hit in the face with that opening guitar chord.
And a little bit of Dave tapping it out. Just
It's such a fantastic... It's reminiscent... It's actually reminiscent of Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. So you have that big opening chord, and Serve the Servants is very, very similar to that in the way it opens. And then you go into that really just like... I think it's a real groovy riff. That
absolutely. I think it's very, very Beatles influenced. And for those of you that don't know, Kurt Cobain loved the Beatles.
He did. This is documented.
Dave Grohl loved the Beatles.
Nirvana loved the Beatles.
Yeah, if you watch the Sound City documentary, what does Dave say? My first influence was
the Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, the Beatles are probably the most influential band. I'm talking about band. For singer, I would probably say Elvis Presley or Buddy Holly.
But like for a band,
the Beatles. And that's all there is to it.
They have influence in all sorts of bands.
All sorts of genres.
Nirvana is a fantastic example.
Don't at me or email me or yell at me because it's a fact. Sorry, folks. We wouldn't have most of these bands if it weren't for the Beatles. Nirvana being one of them.
Very true. No, you're very right.
It happens.
Yeah, no, but I mean the first it's just such a perfect introductory track on the original. It really is.
What a great way to bring the listener right into not just the song but the album as a whole. Nirvana basically saying we're going to take you on a fantastic voyage.
It sets you up for the rest of the album.
It does
too, because I mean this album consistently, in the best way, it punches you in the face.
It does. It does. It's a great punch in the face.
In the best way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is such just like a raw and in-your-face type of album.
And one thing I've always loved about this song, especially while listening on headphones, and seriously, listen to In Utero on headphones. You will. It's amazing.
You'll be tired.
You'll be tired at the end, but it's amazing.
In a very good way.
But I love hearing Kurt's fingers slide on the guitar neck as he changes chords.
Yeah.
I love hearing that sound.
Yeah.
There's times like you listen to Guns N' Roses albums and you'll hear Slash. I love that as the guitarist changes chords. I think it's great.
Well, it's a very like natural type of thing.
It is. It's the song itself is very gritty. But yeah, like you said, it's a great little tune with that Beatles influence in the undercurrent there. So
yeah.
However,
we have to go to the remaster.
We have to go to the remaster now.
So we're doing the original versus the remaster, and if you haven't heard the remaster, there are things that are different from the original.
Yes.
Noticeably different, and it's not a case of like Rust in Peace where things were re-recorded. Megadeth's Rust in Peace album, but very clearly these tapes were not just like remastered, like how they did back in 2013. They went through and remixed some stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and me and Rose have some criticisms, thoughts, comments to make on some of these edits.
Take it away, Orion.
I do have to make a point here. I do understand, like, okay, these tapes are 30 years old. Yeah. You know, so I mean, is the integrity going to be 100% the same? Maybe not.
Depends on how they were stored.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Serve the Servants, and honestly, this remaster as a whole, there's some interesting choices in how they chose to change this record up.
That's putting
a bit, and a good a good example of this is in Serve the Servants, where because the impression I got from this remaster is the goal was to kind of like clean the album up a bit. Yeah. You know, is to smooth it out a bit, make it I don't want to say more listenable, but I guess like more easily listenable.
Polish the rough edges, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
But having said that, there's in the original version of Serve the Servants, there's a pretty audible like cough or throat clear from Kurt Cobain, like towards the end of the solo in it. And you would think with again, the impression I get is they're trying to clean things up here. You'd think they would like get rid of that, but they actually made it more audible. Because
but I like that.
They turned up the vocals in this track.
Yes, very much so.
That's a theme throughout the remaster. The vocals are higher, and that's not always a good thing, honestly.
No, it's not. But I like throat clearing.
We'll go more in depth. Yeah, no. I mean, it's the thing. It's not a bad thing that they left it in. I'm glad they left it in. Yeah. It's just it instantly makes me wonder how much care was put into this. If the goal of a remaster is usually to, you know, clean it up, and listening to some of the other tracks on the remaster, very clearly seems like it was meant to clean things up. You know, why would they leave that in there then?
Well, I'm glad that they did.
I am too. I am too.
Integrity was Kurt.
For integrity and some of the personality and charm.
Absolutely.
You know, records with imperfections have that charm.
Absolutely.
But it's an interesting choice. Rose, I'm sure you have thoughts on this track as well.
I think though with Serve the Servants on the remaster, I don't think the guitar sounds as gritty. There's less feedback and there's less noise. The biggest thing that you notice about In Utero when you listen to the original, when you put it on, it is a loud album.
It is.
Okay, it's not something that you want to put on during a dinner party while everybody's sitting there like trying to eat chicken in tuxedos, okay? You don't know. That's not, I mean, I would play an album like that because that's how I am.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is a very loud album.
It is.
It reminds me of a certain Metallica album, you know? So it's kind of like, which album is louder?
It's not quite a wall of sound like Death Magnetic.
It comes close,
though. It comes close.
But it's more palatable, much
It's
so.
It's much less muddy than Death Magnetic.
It's much less muddy.
In terms of loud albums.
Yeah, that's the original we're talking about, much less muddy.
Yeah.
And it's a very pleasant wall of sound.
It is.
it is.
I feel
anyway.
And it's a theme. Another theme throughout the remaster is you kind of lose that effect because there is less reverb, there is less feedback, there's just audibly there's just kind of less going on.
Yeah.
Which for an album like this that is such grunge, punk, new wave, grit, I don't think that was a good choice.
I agree.
And going by track by track, you'll hear more of our thoughts on that.
Well, to me too, the cymbals sound quieter, and the remastered song is actually 2 seconds shorter than the original. So I kind of wonder what was eliminated.
A bit of a nitpick, but bizarre. I know, and you'll probably was that dead air that they just cut out, or what?
And you'll probably get tired of hearing me say this because it's true with a lot of the songs throughout the remaster. I mean, you trim the song times, a second here, a couple here, snip, 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 and you're going to end up with an uneven haircut, like what a 5-year-old, like a 5-year-old tries to cut his bangs, that kind of is what happens,
I think that lends to my comment of wondering how much care was put into this, though, because typically with remasters, the songs are the exact same length.
They are.
They
are.
Like,
and with Utero, I really noticed this.
You don't see a song being just randomly a second or two shorter for some reason, usually.
Right. I think this is bizarre, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
Yeah.
It's a very small thing, but it's definitely one of those things that make you go,
Things that make you go, CNC Music Factory.
This is one of them. All right, moving on, though, continuing our track by track. Scentless Apprentice, track 2.
The original is fantastic.
It is.
Kurt's screaming, he just peeks the microphone, and it's pure aggression. It's a wall of sound. The thumping bass and the drums, they just melt into this wonderful block of a huge semi-truck that's going to hit you and turn you into peanut butter. I love it. The guitars have a wonderful buzz that just really nicely complement and overlay the rhythm section. This, to me, Scentless Apprentice just flows so well. And then Kurt's screaming.
I couldn't really describe it any better, honestly. It's got some of the rawest, most intense screams from Kurt on here.
Yeah. The microphone practically went up in flames by when he was recording it because he peaked it so much.
Listening to this on headphones, I mean, you can hear the mic almost screaming for help. Because you start to hear that sound when in the chorus where Kurt is just screaming his head off.
Yeah, he just overloads the mic so much.
And it's great. It really is great.
You have that wonderful drum beat. The do do
do.
I mean, it's just it's so great. And
that's one of the most famous Nirvana drum beats.
It is.
Honestly.
As soon as
if you're a drummer, you play that incessantly.
Yeah.
If you're a drummer,
right?
and you know Nirvana, you're going to pull that out on the kit at least once a week.
Yeah. Or do it as a warm up too.
I'm a typical drummer. I've got restless leg syndrome, and I'm constantly tapping on things.
No.
But that is my most often just absent-minded tapping is One by Metallica and Scentless Apprentice by Metallica or by Nirvana. I'll just be sitting there just kind of thinking, and then all of a sudden you're home and you go
Or the other night when we were watching TV, he started playing One just out of nowhere. Yeah. I'm sitting there going, oh yeah, okay, Orion's doing One again, Yeah.
Just start doing that shit. It's a drummer thing.
It is. I've gotten so used to it that a lot. Sometimes I don't even pay a whole lot of attention to it. It's just like, oh, okay, Orion's doing One again. Whatever. So that's the original.
Yes.
For the remastered version,
what changes? I mean, right off the bat, I'd say it just genuinely doesn't hit as hard.
It sounds more muted to me.
Yeah. I will say a lot of the changes on here are subtle.
Yes.
But you can tell, especially on this track, that the volume has been dialed back, and it's not as aggressive.
I agree.
I mean, I can understand with this track especially trying to make it a little bit more palatable because Kurt fucking screaming bloody murder is not everybody's cup of tea.
Well, then maybe they shouldn't listen to Nirvana. I mean, anyway.
But I can understand where this song is a little too much, for some people. Not for you or me.
Not for me.
But for some people. But at the same time, though, I think that comes down to, again, the integrity of the original.
Right. Right. We do have to think about that.
You dial that back, and it doesn't. It doesn't hit the same.
And I don't think the guitars sound as buzzy either.
Again, removal of just kind of the general noise going on that you have.
Absolutely. I mean, the screams, of course, are still there. The peaking the microphone is still there. I don't think you could get rid of that no matter how hard you tried. And I'm glad,
The way the microphone is, that's just baked into the recording.
It is. Yeah.
But the vocals are the volume's dialed back on that, so it's not.
No, it is. I guess what I'm saying is
in your ears, but you can tell how the original recording was. It's still like it's still taxed to the microphone. It's still
there. Yes.
You know.
Yes. All right.
Track number 3.
Shaped box.
Heart-shaped box.
I wish I could eat your cancer when you turn black.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
I
love this track.
I was gonna say thoughts on the original.
Yeah, it's just such a wonderful, like, oddly mellow, but at the same time still really like, yeah, just raw in your face. I'm gonna use that a lot. Gonna abuse the hell out of those descriptors, but that's just, it's the best way I can describe stuff on this album. But it's a great balance of those two things, of those like two sides of Nirvana.
Agree.
You know, being able to pull out these really like bittersweet, haunting melodies and accompany them with these very intense and grinding riffs and vocals.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. There's a lot of different influence and sounds and genres really mixed into Nirvana. When you really listen to Nirvana, and by that I mean go and really listen to the deep cuts. Go and listen to the With the Lights Out box set to get a lot of that stuff. There's nothing wrong with Nevermind. Nevermind's a fantastic album. Mm-hmm. But don't just listen to Smells Like Teen Spirit or Lithium, which I love Lithium, by the way. It's a great song.
It is.
Don't just listen to the hits. Go in and listen to those deeper tracks. Yeah. And you're able to, thanks to Spotify and everything.
Yep.
And you'll really hear those different influences on Nirvana and how they created their own sound. It's very exciting.
Indeed. Yeah. Listen to the With the Lights Out box set. Listen to Bleach.
Yes.
Listen to Incesticide.
Yeah.
The album that nobody knows fucking exists.
Yeah, it
by the way, Nirvana has 4 albums.
They have 4 albums. Not 3, 4.
There's 4. But Geffen Records didn't want to promote Incesticide because Nevermind was doing so well. Anyway, that's a different tangent.
They couldn't print Nevermind fast enough, is what it was.
Yeah. Use Spotify to your advantage. And you
really should.
You can hear those different influences.
Yeah.
And it gives you a real insight to how Nirvana was able to blend together all these different sounds so well.
Yeah, Nirvana is just not... Is grunge. I mean, just grunge. No. They threw Nirvana into the grunge category, or
because they came out of Seattle.
And I prefer anymore to call it the Seattle sound, of Soundgarden and Nirvana and Mudhoney and Screaming Trees and some of those bands that just did not get the accolades that they deserved at all, because they were all like, oh, just grunge, or oh, just another grunge band. Step out of that. Go and look at and listen to all of their songs, no matter what band it is from Seattle.
Oh yeah.
With Heart-Shaped Box, I absolutely love the drums on this song. I always have. They're like round, like this round thump that just surrounds the entire song. Yeah. And you've got those buzzy guitars that really, to me, was Nirvana's signature sound. Was that guitar sound?
Oh yeah.
That
rich buzz.
That rich buzz that just fills your cranium.
That rich buzz saw.
Yeah, or friendly bees,
friendly bees
hanging out.
Yeah.
I love bees.
Beeswax, anybody?
Yeah. It's the feedback, it's the amp sound, it's the punk meets rock moment it's catchy. Heart-Shaped Box is very catchy, but not in an annoying way.
No. Not in an annoying hit single pop way.
Right. The song is intricately layered, and it makes for a good listening experience.
That's another part of Nirvana's sound, is there's a lot of layers.
There is.
Okay,
so the remaster
version.
Remaster.
I think it's good. I think the remaster version is fine. It keeps the rich sound of the original. I think it's at least on the same level quality-wise. It kind of feels like it was the most untouched.
I think the only thing that sounds kind of weird to me is the vocals. The vocals seem to stand out a little bit more, like they're almost ahead of the instrumentation, like the instrumentation is trying to catch up a little bit with them.
Interesting.
And I don't feel like the vocals blend as well as they did on the original, personally. Yeah. I don't think the remastered version of Heart-Shaped Box is bad. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
But to me, the vocals just sound kind of off. I don't quite know what it is. I listened to it like 3 times yesterday thinking, what is weird with the vocals? So I would say if there was any tinkering with it, I would say maybe they did something with the vocals. Maybe it's subtle enough that maybe not everybody would pick up on it. But I don't know. They just sound odd to me.
It could also be a case of the tapes aging.
That is true.
You know, again, these are 30-year-old tapes. So are they going to have the same integrity as they did before?
No.
Probably not.
They're not. And again, how they were stored, how were they cared for? I mean, were they kept in a nice vault, which I'm assuming that they were. I don't know. Or were they in, like Steve Albini's basement, which I highly doubt that they were. No. But,
well, I mean, considering Steve Albini was not the one that remastered.
Well, that is true. But I'm just saying, or were they like in a lunchback somewhere? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That'd be something to Google, but I don't know if I could find it on Google.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you'd be able to find that or not.
I don't know. But that's the only thing that I think is a little different about this song is the vocals. Yeah. So
fair enough.
All right. Rape Me.
Rape Me, my friend. Track 4. Rape Me.
Which they were going to play at the 1992 VMAs. They tried. They started. Some fat fuck executive upstairs started screaming, "Go to commercial!" And nah. Kurt was a troll long before we knew what trolling was.
Yes, he was.
Kurt was fantastic at that. Like,
because what MTV did is like, okay, you can play any song, do not play "Rape Me." And the first thing that Kurt does when he gets in front of the microphone, "Rape me,"
starts
starts playing,
strumming on the guitar there.
Starts playing that, and then he he stops and looks around, and then they start playing the
control room in MTV was going absolutely batshit.
It had to have been.
Oh, they were. No, I've read reports about. I mean, people screaming, going to commercial, and things like that. But Kurt was so great at that. If you watch their live at Reading concert, and before they go into Smells Like Teen Spirit, they start playing Boston's More Than a Feeling, which Boston is also a band that Kurt and Chris very much enjoyed. They listened to Boston quite a bit and talked about that band quite a bit, which Boston is a very underrated band.
Yeah, bassist Chris Novoselic, for those who don't know.
And it's so funny, Kurt starts strumming kind of what sounds like Smells Like Teen Spirit, but then he goes into the guitar riff for More Than a Feeling, and they start singing it, and Kurt just gets this big old grin on his face.
That is awesome. Like one of the funniest Nirvana clips.
It is.
Ever.
It's on YouTube. Check it out. It's so great.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like, the troll to the crowd, and then Chris, who cannot sing at all, trying to do backing vocals on that, and not knowing the words.
I mean, I'm a bad singer, but I think Chris is worse than me.
Oh man, we love this band.
We're
going to stay on topic as best we can, but there's going to be a lot of tangents.
Okay, so start talking about "Rape Me," the original.
Yes,
the original version.
Original. I mean, just a very it's a very like woeful song, I think, honestly. Just in the way that Kurt sings it, the way the guitar, especially like the acoustic in the beginning, sounds. Of course, Dave's drums just beat you over the head in the best way there. It's another example of Nirvana being able to blend those bittersweet melodies with this more intense type of sound.
Especially at the end where Kurt just screams out his frustration.
Yeah.
The song just absolutely chugs.
It does.
It's great. The guitar is great.
Yeah.
The cymbals are there, but they don't take over the song. The original is just a wonderful blend,
it really
honestly.
Is. Yeah. It all comes together very nicely.
It does.
The remaster. Here we go.
You go, because I know you've got a lot of thoughts on this. You pulled out stuff that I didn't really hear. So.
Yeah, so I think for the remaster that Dave's drums get lost in the mix, honestly. The snare is audibly less punchy. I just think overall the drums sound worse, and I'm going to be bitching about the drums a lot.
No.
In the remaster. Maybe it's because I'm a drummer, but I think it's very noticeable, honestly, how the drums are different and genuinely just don't hit the same.
Did you notice the cymbals being louder or sharper?
I can't really say that I did, but the drums the drums are in a different place in the mix for sure.
Yeah, they do sound off to me, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I was like, what's different here?
I notice again theme with the vocals being cranked up. Kurt's vocals are cranked up, and for me they lay over that guitar in the intro. It sounds a bit off.
Okay.
Like it was just like they started playing the tapes, but they started the vocals like a tad too late almost.
Oh, really?
So like it doesn't feel synced up to me weirdly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing, but you know that a thing that I want to make clear with the remaster, like everybody's going to hear things differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, and that's why me and Rose have different thoughts. You may have different thoughts if you listen to the original versus the remaster. You know? I think the ending of the remastered version is another example of the sound being like less aggressive.
To me, it's overall. Muted.
Yeah.
It's muted.
It feels toned back a little bit.
Yeah, like they just kind of pulled Kurt back almost from screaming, and that's a huge important part of the song, where he's just letting out all of his frustration and just basically saying, "Do with me what you will, because you're gonna do it anyway."
Yeah.
And in the remaster, it's like, well, let's kind of rein that in just a little bit. You know, it's an odd feeling at the end. I was kind of thinking, where is the aggression?
Yeah.
Where'd it go?
Yeah. I'd like to make a point here, by the way. Rape Me is the title of the song. It's an anti-rape song.
It's an anti-rape song, actually.
Just gonna let you know.
Oh, yeah, we forgot to
mention that.
Yeah.
Because plenty of people will think it's,
oh, yeah.
You know.
No, we're not advocating.
No. Go and read about the song.
Yes, Google is your friend.
It is. Because, yeah, I mean, if you miss that mark, it's, a lot of people did when it first came out as well.
Yeah. There was a lot of controversy
when
this song came out.
You name a song called Rape Me, that's going to have controversy, of course.
But
you read about you read about why Kurt wrote it and the message he intended to have behind it, and honestly the way the song is delivered, vocally and instrumentally too, I think.
Yeah.
I think you can start to understand that it really is anti-rape.
Yeah. Don't just take things at face value.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to listen a few times, read things a few times, do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But wanted to bring that out
Thank
there.
you.
Because
I didn't even think about that.
First time we're bringing that song up on the podcast, and I think it's important to note.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't even think about that.
Because it's inherently a controversial song.
Yes. Yes.
Moving on from Rape Me, though, let's go to I was about to say Channel 5. Let's switch it over. Let's switch it over to track 5.
Okay, let's press the button on the 8-track. Clunk, clunk.
Rose, I'm gonna let you take this one away because I know this is like your favorite Nirvana song. Frances Farmer
will have her revenge on Seattle. This is my favorite song on the album, and it's actually one of my favorite Nirvana songs overall. I could probably do a top 5 of favorite Nirvana songs overall. That'd be another good podcast episode.
Indeed.
I love everything about this song. Kurt sounds like he's scrambling eggs on his guitar at the 2:22 mark, and the lyrics are absolutely fantastic. If you don't know anything about Frances Farmer, again, Google is your friend.
Did not know Frances Farmer was a real person until I researched the song.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's even a movie out about her as well. Very very, very sad circumstances with her.
It's a sad story.
Yeah, very sad. I fucking love the guitar feedback on this song. I love Kurt lamenting about finding comfort in sadness.
Yeah.
I can relate to that very much. The drums are brutal in the best way. It is such a solid song. There is so much emotion in it. I absolutely love it. It's in my top 5 of Nirvana songs. And again, the favorite off the album for me.
It's a very complete feeling song.
Yeah.
Not to say that like other songs feel unfinished or whatever, but it's like one of those songs that, you listen to it and like, wow, this has like everything and it all came together like really well.
And it tells this great story.
Yeah, it's like really thought out and things like that. Like that's
the composition.
It's just one of those songs that you can tell just like came together really well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Your thoughts? Any other thoughts on it? I guess I should say on the original.
That was kind of it. Rose.
That was kind of it. All right. So
I do really enjoy this song. There's a lot of fantastic riffs.
Yes.
In it.
Yes.
It's very punk, very punk rock.
Very punk.
Shows off some of the expert use of feedback that Kurt Cobain had. Mm-hmm. Big part of his repertoire, especially during live shows.
Yes. God, Nirvana, they were so good live.
Yeah, I mean,
so good
it's just
live. I wish I'd been able to see them.
It's just a good song. It's just a good song, man.
But the remaster, on the other hand, pisses me off.
So the remaster, this is one of those songs where lots of things are very noticeably changed.
I have questions.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell they did with the drums.
Why does it sound slower? Why doesn't it hit the same? Why does it sound like the emotion has been removed? What happened to the drums?
Yeah.
I could go on.
Yeah.
I'll stop.
I don't get it. Yeah, Dave's drums, the only way I can describe them is like they sound cheap and plasticky in the remaster, where the original they're strong and thundering.
Yeah.
You know, that like he's on the snare and the floor tom just boom, 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 at that one point in the song, throughout different points in the song, and it doesn't feel as impactful in the remaster.
It's muddy. It's sludgy. It's muted. I don't get the Kurt scrambling eggs on his guitar feeling.
I mean, the guitar track is barely audible at times.
Know.
Actually,
I know.
I can barely hear Chris at all.
Barely, and that's even with headphones on. I'm like, "Hi, Chris. Where are you?
Where's the bass?"
Yeah. It pisses me off.
It's drowned out by the drums and the vocals.
Yeah.
It's a downgrade.
It pisses me off.
Yeah.
Just no on the remaster.
Look how they massacred my boy.
They massacred my song, man. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm dumb.
Yeah, I think I'm dumb. This is track 6. This is Dumb.
Dumb. Dumb. The original.
I could make a joke, but I won't.
Uh-oh. Are we trying to keep this podcast PG?
Oh, yeah.
Not really.
It's going to be PG. I was going to say dumb like this remaster.
No. That's tame. That's tame compared to some of the things you say.
I know.
Dumb. The original Dumb is a very smart song, though.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
The cello?
Yeah.
The cello is incredible.
It's very sophisticated.
Yes.
Sound-wise.
Yes.
The cello and the acoustic guitar, the way those blend together is very nice.
Absolutely.
It's a very
the cello is very haunting.
Yeah, it's one of my it's probably ranked pretty high, honestly, for me.
Yeah.
On this record, it's definitely one of my more favorites. I mean, I love like every track on this record. Honestly.
Yeah.
I can't pick one that I like genuinely do not like.
Same here.
You know,
overall with me, yeah.
Yeah, and like listening to the lyrics and stuff, you know, it's a song I really vibe with, if I can say that. You know, like what the kids say.
You're a kid.
Yeah, but I'm also an old head. So, I don't know.
You hang out with old people too much.
Yeah, I don't know what the kids say, man.
Well, I think Dumb is an incredibly beautiful, sad song. The instrumentation blends perfectly well with Kurt's slower, sad vocals. I've always loved this song, including the acoustic version they did for Unplugged.
Oh, the acoustic version's fantastic. It's just
absolutely beautiful. It's a really cool song.
It is.
Really cool.
No, it really is.
So, what's your take on the remaster?
The remaster.
He takes a deep breath. Here we go.
I don't have too much negative to say about this. For me, I feel like they cranked up the cello just a little bit, which I'm honestly pretty happy about, because I love string instruments.
Oh, okay? Yeah.
Like when it comes to like orchestral metal, just like any like rock type of stuff like that incorporates like violins or cello or just like any sort of string instrument like that, like
what Metallica did with S&M 1 and 2.
Yeah, like I go nuts for that type of shit, because I love that sound, because it can be it's such a versatile, you know, type of like group of instruments that you can do. You can have those really like haunting backgrounds, but also at the same time you can have these really intense wailing accents,
right?
You know, and it just they add so much to songs.
I think what's interesting is that you've got, when you do that, you have an interesting juxtaposition. You've got these stringed instruments that you usually see a lot of people wearing tuxedos and evening gowns playing, and you know, it's gentle violin. And then
very refined
like,
reputation.
And uppity, you know. You have a string quartet at your wedding or at some sort of poof party,
Poof party.
Whereas, who plays drums? Who plays bass? Who plays guitar? Well, you got long-haired musicians who drink a lot of beer and snort cocaine and scream, okay?
Yeah.
But then you can meld these two together.
Either those people or posers, you know?
That's very true. But you can meld these two things that you think are like on opposite ends of the spectrum, and you bring them together, and you find that they complement each other
so very well.
You know, I mean they're like peanut butter and chocolate together. You know?
Yeah, I think that comes to like metal having such roots. I mean, Nirvana's not necessarily metal, but just like that intense kind of feel, you know.
Well, rock really came out of blues.
Intense,
too.
Grandiose type of stuff, you know, that you get with those instruments. It's complemented by stuff like that having a root in classical.
True.
You know, because you can find a lot of classical songs that are like, holy shit, this is metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen
Absolutely.
to In the Hall of Mountain King.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
That's a great example of a song that just goes fucking batshit.
There you go.
The first thrash metal song. But yeah, it complements it so well. So I mean, hearing it, for me at least, like a little bit more present in my ears in the remaster, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The drums, again, the snare sounds flat. They don't sit in the mix as well. Dave's backing vocals at the end are cranked up.
Thank you. That's one of the biggest things I've noticed.
It's another thing with vocals all over this remaster being cranked up, made more audible, put to the forefront more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not a good thing, honestly. It makes the harmonies mix worse to me.
Yeah, because in the original, how they had Dave's voice, it really complemented Kurt's. Mm-hmm. But now
their voices mixed beautifully.
Oh, beautifully, perfectly,
just naturally. Yes. Like so much vocal chemistry between those two.
Absolutely. But then when you get to the remaster, I mean, I can really hear Dave. And please, that's not a bad thing, okay?
No, I love Dave Grohl.
I love Dave's singing voice, okay?
Being able to hear Dave Grohl, I'm fine with that. I love that.
But in that mix,
in the context,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It does not work. Yeah. And then
if I was just listening to Dave Grohl play drums and sing, like, yeah, crank that shit up to 120.
Absolutely.
You know, but there's a video on YouTube of Dave just playing drums for like 22 minutes.
Yeah.
I watch that regularly because I'm just a massive fan of Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
But again, it's about context. It's about balance.
Balance is the key.
The original was fine when it came to like balancing out these tracks for the most part. And they kind of ruined that.
Yeah.
By bringing up the volume of the backing vocals so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I really noticed too were the cymbals. Mm-hmm. In the remaster, they're louder. Mm. And honestly, the last 30 seconds of the song, that's all I hear is Dave on the crash cymbal. To me, it's very heightened right there in my right ear. And I'm just, to me, it's almost a distraction.
Yeah.
So I don't know that they just turned it up in the mix, I guess.
I didn't personally notice that, but I don't know if I pay attention to the cymbals as much.
Yeah.
You know, with stuff, I'm more into, I like deeper melodies or deeper sounds.
The only time you have told me that you really paid attention to the cymbals was on Motley Crue's Saints of Los Angeles.
Yes.
And we were in the car one day, this was quite a while ago, and we were playing this album, and
this had to be like 2019 or something.
Oh yeah, and you go, did they put the microphones like right on the cymbals? What the fuck is wrong with the cymbals? I mean, so I have to admit, that's the only time you've told me that about cymbals.
Saints of Los Angeles is a great album, but the cymbals are really bright.
Really loud.
Really bright. And in your face on that,
especially on headphones.
Yeah,
it's a fantastic album.
I kind of have that problem too, actually, with Slayer's "God Hates Us All" record. The cymbals on that to me are pretty bright and almost kind of thin sounding. Honestly,
really?
Yeah, I noticed. I had Bloodline popped up in my playlist, and I that's a great song.
I love
it's a great
song.
Slayer song, but it was like right after like a Sabbath song or something like that. So very, very different mixing styles, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I was like, what's wrong with these cymbals? Why are they why are they so thin?
That's interesting.
Where's the impact in my ears?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I'm gonna have to listen to God Hates Us All on headphones.
Yeah. But that for the remaster of In Utero, I didn't really notice it a whole lot, and I don't think unless the cymbals are incredibly bright and like almost distractingly, I'm probably not going to pay attention to them as much.
Okay.
In that sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. Okay.
So, and that's just with what type of sounds my brain hears, and it's like, ooh, let's focus on that.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, let's go to Very Ape.
Very Ape. I'm Very Ape. Very nice.
What are your thoughts on the original?
I love the original.
I do too.
I really
that rumbling bass, the guitar, Kurt just yelping throughout.
There's so much. This is such just like a punk rock song.
It is.
It really is.
It's grunge meets punk.
There's so much like perfect guitar going on here. Like it's such like a simple riff. That's what I love about Nirvana. That too is like such simple riffs get turned into these great, just like you want to bang your head type of shit, that and then like later
it's a thumper.
And then later on as that's going on, you get that another guitar part that comes in and just complements it so well. It's another example of Nirvana having all these layers.
All those layers.
Despite being a 3-piece band, having all these layers to their songs. Mm-hmm. And if I had to pick a song that I could hear live with Pat Smear on guitar, this would be it. Because then they could actually do the 2 guitar tracks.
Yes.
Especially
with how fantastic of a guitarist Pat is.
Unfortunate, I don't think that ever happened.
I don't
know how many live shows they did with Pat.
That would be something to look up. Yeah, there weren't tons.
And this was not like this particular song is more of a deep cut.
Yes.
So I'm notoriously a fan of deep cuts.
Same here. Same here. I could wax poetic on deep cuts. I love the deep cuts channel on SiriusXM.
Yes. Yeah. So it didn't. I don't think it got played live too much, but I really,
that'd be something to look up.
I really do love just how like chunky the song is.
It is. It's chunky like stew. It's great. Fun fact. This starts side 2 on the cassette tape.
It certainly does.
If you're curious.
Yep.
So let's talk about the remaster.
I don't notice a huge difference on this one, honestly. It feels slightly muddier. I think that's once again because of what they do with Kurt's vocals and Dave's drums, because both are noticeably louder, which honestly Dave's drums in the original do get buried at times.
They do.
So I think bringing up the volume on that is fine.
Yeah.
But the vocals and drums are kind of where they're sitting at in the mix and how loud they are. They're kind of fighting for dominance in your ears.
Yes,
which is not good.
No, your ears should not be fighting.
No,
because I noticed the exact same thing.
Everything should be kind of flowing into your ears in a a gentle flow type of, no jams in the river.
Right.
No jams in the river of sound.
Absolutely. And, because I really noticed that.
It's a weird battle between those two tracks for me.
Yeah. I think though too, I think they smoothed out some of Kurt's vocal fray.
Do you think so?
On the remaster. I don't notice it as much. So I think they kind of smoothed it out or turned it down or something. I'm not quite sure. I just noticed that some of it is gone.
Yeah, it's another thing too though, like where it's, they did change up some of the effects. They did get rid of some of the background noise, but they changed where things sit in the mix, and that can definitely change how you're hearing stuff a lot. I mean, if you're gonna hear stuff in your right ear differently than you are in your left ear.
Yeah.
You know, so even if something is mixed exactly the same, you know, you listen to it in one ear and then listen to it in the other, it's gonna sound a little different to you.
Absolutely.
So because we're not perfectly symmetrical beings, so it could be a case of that, you know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much they really like corrected or polished the actual vocals.
Right.
To me, I didn't notice that a whole lot personally.
That was the only thing that I noticed was the vocal fray kind of changed a bit.
There's not a whole lot done to this particular track. And I think they had good intentions with it because again the drums in the original are a little low, but it's unfortunately just it clashes with itself, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So.
Another fun fact, this song used to have the working title of Perky New Wave Number. Believe it or not, but Nirvana was into New Wave.
They were, very much so. No, Kurt is documented to have said he very much desired to do more New Wave stuff with Nirvana.
I'm thinking Nirvana is like Duran Duran or something. It's not a bad thing.
More New Wave rock, honestly. Yeah. Not the, like... You know, not Duran Duran.
Don't make fun of Duran Duran.
I'm not.
Please don't.
I'm not.
I mean, I'm not a Duranie, but I still love Duran Duran. Yeah.
I'm not. Duran Duran is fine. I don't have a problem with Duran Duran.
Milk It.
Milk It.
Milk It.
I love this song.
I do too.
This is such a good, like, I think this is kind of like the underrated, underappreciated track on here. And
I think so.
Again, it's another deep cut. Is it the, like, strongest Nirvana song? Probably not, but
I don't think
it's
so,
such a good, just, like, scream your guts out type of song. It's a really...
drums.
Yeah.
Though.
And the riff, too. The guitar. Like, I mean, the verses are maybe a little draggy or whatever. You could say that about it, but I mean, holy shit when it kicks in.
The way the drums and the guitar melt together, it's really just a slab of goodness.
It really is. Yeah, it is.
The drums kind of lend this ominous sound to the song, but it pairs very well with the lyrics and the vocals.
Yeah. The way it's delivered, it's very grungy and sludgy.
It is
in the verses
in such a great way.
It is, in such a great way.
However, on the other hand, the remaster is thin.
Man, they stripped the beef out of this song.
Yeah, it's like cutting the really good parts of the bacon out.
They took the rich, meaty sound of the original and they like made it vegetarian. Man, I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
It's dry where the original was wet. The best way I can describe it is you're going from listening to it sitting right in front of two big speakers in front of you to listening to it on two like old computer speakers sat either side of you. It sits in a totally different part of your head.
Yeah.
The original is just like right there gnawing at your frontal lobe.
Yeah.
And the remasters kind of sits somewhere behind your ears. It doesn't hit the same. Everything it's like Moses came in and parted the seas of sound. It's just like everything was so forward and blasting you over the head in the original, and the remaster is just kind of sitting on either side of you.
On speakers from a 1999 computer with AOL.
Yeah, because it's just a lot of the power and feeling in that track is just kind of it doesn't feel the same.
Well, the drums are deflated.
Yeah,
it really sounds like Dave's playing drums on pillows.
Yeah, they're a lot more blunt.
They're just
and just kind of.
It's quieter.
They're less dimensional. It's much quieter.
Yeah.
There's much less general noise going on, which, from a production standpoint, you could probably see that as a good thing, but it takes so much out of it.
It takes the emotion out of it.
It really does.
Yeah.
It takes it from being, another good song to very clearly the weakest on the record.
Yikes. Yeah.
Which is not good.
This is one of the remasters next to Francis Farmer that I'm just like, no, this is horrible. Yeah.
It's another one where I will never listen to the remaster again.
Yeah.
I will simply listen to the original. Thank you very much when it comes to this one.
All right,
That's all I have to say.
Let's sit and drink some Pennyroyal tea.
Oh boy. Pennyroyal tea.
I love Pennyroyal tea. I hear this song and all I think of is winter. I think of that winter in 1993 where I live. We live in the Midwest, by the way.
Yeah.
It snowed really early. It snowed like at the beginning of November, and it just didn't fucking stop snowing. It was cold. It was bleak. All I wanted to do was just stay in my room. I was in high school, and so when this song comes on, it's just a wonderful warm meld of I miss the comfort of being sad, in that sense.
Yeah.
There is absolute desperation in this song between the guitar and the vocals. The guitar is loud. It's got great reverb that matches Kurt's vocals, just note for note for note.
Yeah.
It's just everything all wrapped up into one song. It's really early core 90s in this song. And it just takes you on a wild ride, and you're exhausted at the end.
Yeah. It's a very to me it's a very haunting song.
Yeah, if you want to know what it's about, again, Google is your friend. There's a whole Wikipedia article on it.
It's dark. Warning. This song kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies a bit, honestly. It's one of those it's a song that it's actually a Nirvana song that I don't listen to super often, because it's just like something about the subject matter just kind of it freaks me out a little, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just I don't get a good feeling from it.
Well, actually, Kurt wrote about it because he had known girls who were pregnant or thought that they were pregnant that would drink penny royalty and sat in a warm bath and stuff. So he wrote about hearing about those girls and what they were going through and things like that. So
again, Google is your friend. Friend. We've just implied a shitload right there.
Yeah. So,
but Google is your friend.
Google is your friend.
It's very. Don't get me wrong. I like dark.
Oh yeah,
I like
me too.
Dark, but it just when it's kind of it's a little it sits in a weird spot for me.
Yeah.
It just kind of it freaks me out a little bit. But it's still a great song, though.
It is a great song.
And the unplugged version of it is a masterpiece.
It's incredible. Yes.
It's wonderful because it's just Kurt doing it.
It is.
It's much more it's almost more sorrowful.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the version of the song I prefer, honestly.
Yeah.
It's more it's stripped down. It's more almost want to say more heartfelt.
A little more raw.
Yeah. That's a very good version.
But what about the remaster?
So the remaster
makes me angry.
Ugh. It doesn't make me angry, but it's very
it's muted.
I furrow my brow listening to it. It's again, backing vocals and vocals in general are much more audible in the mix, and it's again not a good thing.
The vocal fray is completely gone in some spots.
Well, I think what it is, Dave's backing vocals are turned up so loud.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in a different way. I think you almost mistake the vocal fray for Dave. Because he's holding that that high pitch to get he's almost howling.
Yeah, he almost does.
to get those harmonies. And it's where it's sitting at in the mix and where it kind of sits at in your ears. It kind of fills the same spot as Kurt's vocal fray, fry, whatever you want to call it. I'm not a vocals expert at all. But it's they just kind of hold the same space, so they almost drown each other out, but at the same time and that's from my perspective.
Yeah. No, it's it's interesting.
But at the same time, those backing vocals are really, really audible, and it's just it throws off the harmonies.
And I think that's where it gets rid of a lot of the emotion. I think in the vocals.
It throws. Because you're trying to get into the song and then you're distracted by that being off,
Right.
And also it's weird because the guitars seem louder, but the volume overall throughout the remastered version is just weird.
He's making faces while he's saying this, so he's just. I think it's making him in pain.
I'm trying to figure out a good way to put this too, because the song switches from, and a lot of Nirvana songs switch from quiet to loud,
right?
Peaks and valleys, but the quiet parts are very quiet and the loud parts are very loud, and that's not pleasant.
Again, about that balance.
You have to turn your speakers up to hear the quiet parts, but you have to turn it down to not hurt your ears when the loud part kicks in.
What were you telling me last night? You said that this album, the remaster, sounds like it depended on what mood.
Yeah, like every song was done on a different day.
On a different day. That's what it was. I thought it was a different mood.
Because every song is a little, like, there's certain elements throughout that, like, you know, remain similar, but at the same time, it kind of feels like each one was done on a different day.
Yeah, with a different idea in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. No. It's weird.
Yeah. And again, the remaster is 1 second shorter, so... Again, what was cut?
Nitpick, but it makes you go,
but it makes me want. It makes me,
Makes you wonder. Makes you go,
So some interesting facts that I didn't know. Penny Royalty was scheduled to be the third single off of In Utero. Its release was planned for April of 1994. Oh. The same month that Kurt died.
Wow.
A video was also planned, but it was ultimately canceled, too. Because of Kurt's death.
1994. So they put a single out after the album came out?
Yes. Yes, this would have been the third single.
That's bizarre to me.
Well, you got to remember, that was 30 years ago.
Right.
We didn't have the internet. We got our music news from magazines, primarily Rolling Stone, but also Hit Parader, Rip Magazine, there were Metal Edge, there were all kinds of magazines out there. I read every single one of them.
True.
MTV, of course. That was the biggest thing. So you would get, a band a lot of times would release a single, and sometimes it depended, you know, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a week, maybe a month before they released the album. Then they would automatically release a second single, especially if the album was doing good. Even after the album was released, and say the band's on tour, they released another single, sometimes a fourth single. If you go back and look at older bands, especially from the 80s. I really noticed this in the 80s. There are, if you go to their Wikipedias even, for an album, there are some albums that will have 5 or 6 singles released. Wow. Because that's how you promoted your album. You would put it out on a cassette tape single, you'd have something as the B-side, you'd make a video for it, throw it on MTV, and then while you were on tour, you could say, hey, check out our new video on MTV. Or somebody would see that new video and go... see Poison or Rad on tour, or Nirvana, you know?
I guess to make a music video, you gotta kind of put it out as a new single, you know?
You had to.
That's how it was going to be presented on MTV. You know, you needed to cut it into a presentable format.
Absolutely.
It was just that song that you could ship off to MTV to...
And see,
we don't the music video.
We don't have any of that anymore. All of that has been lost.
You have YouTube music videos.
Yeah, but you have to make sure that you're really subscribed to the artist that you like and get notifications and things like that. Yeah. So much has changed.
You have to look a lot harder.
You really do. You really do. Because I mean, when I was a kid or when I was a teenager, I would come home from school, turn on the TV. What did I turn on? MTV. I'd go to the store, I'd pick up the latest copies of Rolling Stone. I had a subscription to Hit Parader. I'd buy Metal Edge. And there were a couple that I'm forgetting about. I mean, there were all kinds of music magazines back then. You know, and I still have some of my old copies. Yeah. But I mean, that's what you did. That's how you knew that, oh, hey, so-and-so has a single coming out next month, or a new album coming out next month. Check out their new single. I mean, there would be print ads. There would be commercials for albums. Believe it or not. Yeah, things were just different back when
music ruled the world.
Absolutely.
Wish we could go back to that.
Ugh, tell me about it. We just need to find a DeLorean.
Yeah.
And rip off some plutonium. But, you know, that's for another episode. So
that's for another
episode. All right.
Let's do...
let's wrap. We get to our last 3 here because we need to do metal messages.
Let's change things here. Do our... Use our radio-friendly unit shifter. And go to our next track here.
God, I love guitar feedback.
Ah, man. This is... what are we up to now? Track 9?
Something like that. We're almost done here.
We were counting at one point.
We stopped counting. I stopped counting. I love the guitar feedback, the hollow sound of the drums, the overall feel. It just reminds me of a cat trying to hack up a hairball in the best way possible. It's so great. Kurt's vocals are loud, distinct. It's just, yes. is chocolate cake. Yes. Yum.
Yeah,
it's a great song.
This is definitely a layered song, with how many just like different guitar noises are going on. First time listening to this was insane for me because I was like, how do you make those noises on that instruments? You know, I still don't know how he made some of them.
Yeah.
And it's like just you listen to that song, like you'll hear all kinds of new stuff that you didn't know could come out of a guitar,
especially on headphones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was just again, it's a great showcase of how masterful Kurt was at just getting all kinds of strange things to come out of his guitar, just doing unconventional things with that instrument to, you know, produce whatever sort of sounds he had in his head. Basically.
Yeah.
Like, quite honestly.
But in the remaster, ooh.
Boy, vocals get swallowed by the instrumentation here, and contrary to the rest of the remaster, see what I mean by every song being done on a different day?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's been the theme that the vocals are always turned up, and this time, especially in the beginning of the track, they're just kind of muffled.
Yeah. Like it's like Kurt's singing through a scarf.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, I'd say.
Yeah.
Drums are noticeably more blunt. The cymbals seem low, while the snare is just constantly pounding in your ear,
but to me,
an almost uncomfortable degree.
To me, the drums are monotonous.
Yeah.
They lack...
They lack that punch.
Absolutely.
So it's just a blunt slap upside the head every time that snare hits in the remaster.
The feedback's dialed down.
It's toned down, yeah. Some of the general guitar noise seems to be taken out in parts. Maybe that's just me.
It is 1 second shorter.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't know.
Nitpicky, I know, but still.
I don't know if it's dead noise, but who knows? It's just it's bizarre. It's just bizarre. It's weird.
I think
tracks are consistently like slightly shorter.
I think the remaster just trudges along. It's like a reluctant kid going to the school bus stop. It's just no. I don't like the remaster.
It doesn't have it doesn't have the same sound. It just doesn't.
It just doesn't.
It doesn't blend as well.
Tourette's.
Oh boy, Tourette's.
First of all, let's talk about the original. The original is fucking flawless, okay? It's punk, 95 seconds of punk.
Yep.
Kurt just straining his voice to oblivion, a thumping bass, the fast drums, it's anger, it's piss, it's frustration, it's a bit of Flash with pure fuck you attitude. It's just perfect.
I love this song too because it was Kurt's response to people saying that Nirvana's music is just thrashing on guitar and screaming. So he made a song that was just thrashing on guitar and screaming.
Kurt, the original troll. You are missed, Kurt.
The dude was so punk rock, man. He is just like being like, my God, just like knowing that was the origin of the song, legit being like, okay, well, they're saying it's thrashing and screaming. I'll show you thrashing and screaming, you sons of bitches.
You sons of bitches.
And it's just like it's a headbanger.
It is.
It's a song that you can't keep your head still while listening to it. I don't think Kurt said an actual word at any point throughout the entire song. He just kind of screams.
Yes.
And it's great. It is. It's the most like kick-ass musical temper tantrum in the world.
Oh, I like that musical temper tantrum. Here's something though. Here's an interesting fun fact. On In Utero, for the faster songs, the drums were recorded in the kitchen of the studio.
In the kitchen.
Mm-hmm. For additional natural reverb, and Tourette's is one of those songs that was recorded in the kitchen.
Wow.
So it's a kitchen song.
Dave, move your cymbal. I gotta get to the fucking microwave.
Can you move your snare? I need to get to the coffee pot.
How big was that kitchen to fit Dave's drum kit in there?
You know, musicians will do just about anything to get a specific sound. I mean,
well, I mean, Paul McCartney recorded acoustic guitar parts in his bathroom. So
Steve Jones plays guitar in his bathtub. You know, I mean, if you read Keith Richards' book, he talks about how, you know, they recorded some album or another in a castle. They put Charlie in the basement of the castle because they were like,
Sabbath did that too.
Oh God, Black Sabbath did all kinds of shit.
Well, yeah, but
oh yeah,
we need an episode of Black Sabbath stories.
They would put Geezer's bass in one part of the castle, and Ozzy would be like up in in the turret or something like that, Wing. You know? Yeah. So just to get that sound.
Yeah.
Do we have to talk about the remaster of Tourette's?
We do, because first of all, like the random seconds here and there is bizarre. Why is this song not capitalized?
Why is that? In the remaster on the track listing, it's lowercase t.
Like, why?
Why?
Was that just like a format change over the years that I never took into account? Or, I mean, because on the original, it's very much so capitalized.
Questions.
On the back of the album, as far as I recall, it is most certainly capitalized.
Yes. Why does it sound slower too, just a little bit? It's the same length.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's like they slowed something.
It feels, I don't know. The guitar's fine. The vocals are mixed horribly,
yes.
Honestly. Drums are noticeably less punchy and impactful, especially when they first kick in. But the vocals are the main point. They did not need to be louder.
No, they did not.
They did all. For preparation for this episode, we both actually created a playlist where it was In Utero Then versus Now, and we had the original mix of the track followed by the remastered version of said track.
Correct.
Listening to the original, and I will admit I had my volume cranked up pretty loud because I like to listen to Nirvana as loud as possible.
Understandable.
I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's true. That's true for a lot of music I listen to, honestly. Listening to them back to back, the remaster hurt my ears.
Oh.
The original did not. Something about how the vocals are mixed, about how loud they are, they like pierced my ears.
Oh wow.
In the remaster. And also there's like, I don't know if you noticed this too, Rose, but there's like a weird like echo.
I did notice that
in the left ear.
In my left ear. I didn't know what.
I don't know.
It was odd.
I don't know how to describe it, but I'm hearing, when I listen to the remaster, I'm hearing like a tiny Kurt in my left ear that's like really distracting.
Yeah.
I do have to give it credit on one thing. Chris's bass does stand out in the mix a bit more.
Yeah.
Than the original.
But
other than that,
other
than that, I love being able to hear the bass. You know.
Yeah. Me too.
But other than that, it's I am not a fan of the remaster of this track at all. As it being one of my favorite, just like, you know, take a minute and just like, you know, get all your shit from the day out type of song.
Yep.
I do not like how the remaster is put together.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. I really recommend that you do what we did. Take a playlist, put the original In Utero on there, and just go through and do the 30th anniversary as well. You're gonna have to shuffle them a little bit, so you have to put the original Serve the Servants and follow it by the remaster of Serve the Servants. But when you do that, you are going to notice the differences.
You will.
Especially if you're very familiar with In Utero, like I am. I mean, I've listened to that album for decades now. But you're going to notice that.
I've not listened to it for that long, but
I've still noticed it.
I've listened to that album hundreds of times.
Yeah. So if you're very familiar with it, you're gonna hear those little nuances.
Yeah. And like it's subtle for the most part.
Some of them are,
you know? But like, you listen to it enough, you can start to notice.
Yeah. Okay, last track on the album, All Apologies. Can I make an unpopular statement?
I guess.
Okay. All right.
Gonna get us canceled again. I swear to God. No, what is your unpopular
My unpopular opinion is this is the one Nirvana song that if I didn't have to hear it again, I would be perfectly fine. Orion's making faces at me. It's not, I don't dislike the song. I do not dislike All Apologies whatsoever. It's just that when I was a teenager, and after they performed this on Unplugged, and after Kurt's death, it was played over and over and over and over and over again. The radio, MTV, they even took the portion of All Apologies from Unplugged and made a video out of it, and they played it practically every 15 minutes on MTV, especially after Kurt's death.
Yeah.
You could not escape this song. So while I like both versions, I like both the electric and the acoustic. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic song. It's very smooth. I can skip it. And I have done so numerous times. My brain is oversaturated with it, honestly. Like how it is with Metallica's fair. Enter Sandman and Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine. But
your Stairway to Heaven.
It really is. It's one of those. But
that's fair.
The original, can I just say the original, it's fantastic. It's a nice meld of guitars and drums. You've got some good mellow Kurt vocals. Even when he screams the yeah, it's pretty calm compared to the other songs on the album. And I truly do think it is a great way to close out this very loud, wonderful In Utero. I think it kind of gives your ears a rest.
Yeah.
To me, it's kind of like a cool down after a great workout. Please don't think I'm dissing the song, because I am not.
It feels like
I like it a lot.
Lap.
I know. I'm sorry.
I make a sad face at that, because I'm just this is a song that I could listen to over and over and not get tired of. Yeah. You know, it's just like, to me, I love it so much.
No, I know you do.
The lyrics, the instrumentation, the vocal delivery, everything about it it melts together so well.
It does. It does.
And it's just like it's such a iconic Nirvana song too.
It is.
And like you said, it's a perfect cool down lap to this such an intense album.
It is.
You know,
it's a very intense album.
It's almost like Good Riddance, Time of Your Life off Nimrod by Green Day. You know, where it's Nimrod's a pretty overall intense album.
Nimrod's great.
From Green Day, and then all of a sudden you get this very wistful guitar ballad out of nowhere. It's wow, that's really nice.
Yeah.
It's a very sentimental song, and that's kind of what you get with All Apologies. It's a very sentimental feeling, kind of good final track. It gives you kind of it gives you that kind of good feeling,
warm squishy feeling.
It kind of does.
It kind of does. Like I said, I like this song. I like this song. I always have liked the song. I've never disliked it. My brain is just oversaturated with it. It's a song that if you ask me to just hum it, I'll hum it. Sometimes I've hummed it at work, because I've just listened to it so much. Yeah. So I'm gonna let you talk about the remaster.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you have thoughts.
I do have thoughts. Once again, the vocals are in a weird place. They go from being too quiet to being very loud, and I don't understand why they felt the need to mix them that way again. Because
I don't know either.
It's like it goes from very quiet to all of a sudden very loud.
It is. It's so uneven.
There's it's again the problem with balance in this remaster.
Yes.
Drums are noticeably more flat. The cello is cranked up, which once again I appreciate that. Dave's backing vocals are cranked way up as well. I appreciate that less.
Yeah.
Because again,
the very loud vocals.
Again, I love Dave Grohl. His backing vocals are great, but the harmonies do not blend as well when the backing vocals are just as loud as the main vocals.
They did not,
or even almost louder.
They didn't need to be messed with. They did not need to be messed with at all.
And I feel that way with this entire album. Honestly, I don't think the mixing needed to really be messed with a whole lot. If you could give things a tiny bit more room to breathe on a couple of tracks, or slightly turn the drums up in a couple of tracks, that's okay. But there's so much. There's too much done.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
In this remaster. What thoughts do you have on All Apologies?
Mine are pretty much the same as yours. I really noticed those louder vocals, especially the backing. I think to me, I'm hooked on the cymbals for some reason on this album because they're weird in the mix. They have this weird shushing sound. I don't know, and I really notice it. It's in my right ear, and I notice it. But those are really the only two things that I really can tell the difference on with All Apologies. Okay. But the vocals are weird. Yeah. It is. It's Kurt's really quiet. It's what did they do to him? Did they just go in and twirl the knobs around and this sounds good? It's no, it doesn't.
It almost feels that way because again, it's a problem how you had with the previous track. The quiets are very quiet and the louds are very loud.
Yes.
And it's not a good thing.
There's no balance. There's that lack of balance. The teeter-totter is just not balancing.
Yeah. You get that teeter-totter going.
Yeah. So my question to you is, would you recommend buying the 30th anniversary remaster of In Utero?
That's a good question. And
I have those every once in a while.
And personally, I wouldn't. Okay. If you are like a hardcore Nirvana fan that wants to be like a completionist or something like that, you have all the compilation albums hanging up on your wall, get it, for the sake of completion. If you want to have a version of In Utero on vinyl, definitely pick it up, because this is it's on 180 gram now. I think it's a dual LP set, because this remaster was released with 2 previously unreleased live shows.
Yes,
which is pretty cool.
So you're getting a lot of extra live tracks.
Yeah, you're getting quite a bit of content with this remaster. I will say.
You are.
But just for the album itself, I personally would not, because I think honestly, like, if you want to get the best listening experience for Nirvana, or for this album in particular from Nirvana, I would go find the 2013 mix,
which is fantastic. That's the one I have on CD.
Yeah, it is what I personally consider to be a true remaster.
Yeah, the 13 remaster is excellent
of this, because it is genuinely just like upping quality and slightly remixing things so that everything keeps that balance of the original, but it all melts together just as well, if not even a little better than before.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would recommend it to completionists, but otherwise, yeah, go find the 2013 mix.
And see, that's the thing. I'm not a super big fan of remastered albums, because you have things like this that do happen. I have to say, the only remastered albums that I have found to be excellent are the Motley Crue albums.
Interesting.
They've remastered all of their albums up to Dr. Feelgood, but they left everything pretty much alone. The only thing that they improved was the sound quality. Because
that's a true remaster.
Because recording from 1981, 82 is going to be a lot different than, I think they started doing those in like 2014 or something like that.
Yeah.
You're gonna have some huge differences there, but they didn't screw with anything. They really just improved the sound quality,
and I think
it still sounds like Motley Crue. The songs are all the same length, and Vince sounds the same.
I think that's what a remaster should be.
I agree.
Honestly, is just taking those old recordings and polishing it in a way that it's just better quality.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to fuck with the mix.
You don't, and I don't understand why that happened here in Utero.
I don't either. Again, I wonder about the quality or integrity of the original tapes. I wonder about how much care was really put into this remaster.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because it was Albini's assistant, right?
Yes.
Did the remaster?
Bruce Weston.
Bruce Weston. Okay.
Yes.
So I mean, like, you would think that it would maintain a lot of integrity of the original, because it was one of the original people that worked on the album.
Right.
But I think also you could argue that maybe it was one of those cases where it was like, well, I was standing next to him while he was doing this, and I wasn't quite a fan of the way this sounded, so I'm going to take my opportunity now and make it sound like how I wanted it to.
Yeah, you think musicians fight, so do music producers.
Music producers are almost worse.
They're almost worse, yeah.
So, I mean, that could be a case of it, I don't know. But it feels like there could have been a lot more just, like, time and care kind of put into this, honestly.
Well, I agree with you. I think this is really for the real hardcore Nirvana fans who want to have all of their work in the collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do get some extra songs, but several of them are on the With the Lights Out box set, that box set is fantastic. That's what you want. If you want Nirvana stuff, listen to With the Lights Out.
Yeah, along with the live tracks, they did include like some of the B-sides and stuff like that, like Sappy, like
I love Sappy.
Yeah, tracks like that,
Yeah.
I think pretty much all of those, they are available on the With the Lights Out box set, but I think they are also on the deluxe edition of the 2013.
Oh, maybe. I didn't get the deluxe edition. I just got the remastered version, so that way I have it on CD, because I have it on tape.
I'd honestly have to go on Spotify to like 100% know for sure. But I think all of those have definitely been released before, so you're not getting anything new in those like single tracks.
Well, because here's the thing. all of the Nirvana stuff is released.
It is.
It's out. I mean, even Dave Grohl said that in his book. He goes, there's nothing that's undone that's only half finished laying around. He goes, it's all out. It's all put out. Yeah. So my personal opinion is, I think they could have done a 2-disc release containing only the live material of songs off this album, and I think that would have been a very solid way to commemorate this album's release.
Yeah.
That's something that I would have bought.
Yeah.
Because I love to listen to Nirvana live. And I would prefer something like that. That's what I would buy. I don't want remastered versions of songs that I've listened to for like 30 years that I absolutely love that were great to begin with.
It would have been kind of cool if they did, and I think they might have done like a box set of some sort, but like do a box set like how Metallica's been doing with their albums.
Yeah.
You know, where you get an untouched version of the original album. You know, maybe, you know, like the last remaster they did or whatever, because I think that's how they did it for the Black Album and stuff like that, which the remastered Black Album is exactly the same.
It's exactly the same. There's no differences.
There was nothing to remaster.
There was nothing. That album is flawless.
It is.
Bob Rock.
Yeah, all credit to Bob Rock. Mm-hmm. But do something like that where you have that and then you include a couple discs of the live stuff, and then you include like a disc of the B-sides and singles like that. Like, I think that's a great and all that.
I think that's a great addition to a collection.
Yeah,
I really do.
And you have like a poster or something like that. You know, like have something like that. You know,
a couple Nirvana stickers so people can put them on their cars.
Yeah,
I mean,
or
people still do that.
Random stop signs around the city.
Yeah,
people still do that.
People still do that. Yeah. No.
You know, like do something. I would have preferred something like that, honestly, because I think here it's just kind of I wouldn't say it's necessarily like spitting in the face of this album, because it's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. I wouldn't say that at all, but I don't think it's...
It feels unnecessary, honestly.
Yeah, I think there's different ways to commemorate this album.
There's a lot of changes that were very unnecessary.
Agree.
And I would almost argue all of them were unnecessary, honestly, in the way that in the way they were executed, I'll say.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Because I think this does do a couple good things for certain tracks, as we said, you know. At certain points, the drums need to be a little louder. At certain points, the bass need to be a little bit louder. And there are points where it does that.
Right.
But it fucks with the rest of the mix so much that it just kind of makes those good changes, almost a moot point.
Absolutely.
So if you really want to experience this album, then I don't think that's the way to go.
Well, and here's why I prefer the original. Some of the stuff we've already talked upon throughout, and I'm not going to read all my notes that I have, but I just want to make some points here.
You're not going to present your essay.
My essay. My monologue. Okay, but first of all, with the original, I like the sloppiness, if you deem it as such in the original. I like the squeak of fingers on the guitar strings. I like the throat clearing, the guitar picks being dropped. Mm-hmm. I like hearing the creative process at work. Oh, yeah. So I like hearing that. So some of that stuff that was taken out or like turned down on the remaster, I kind of thumb my nose at, honestly, because it just I think it adds to it to a certain degree. Yeah, I like the noise. I like reverb. I can print that in huge letters. I like reverb. My favorite Metallica album is, of course, Ride the Lightning, and a portion as to why I like that album is because of the reverb. Yep. Also because Lars sounds like he's sitting in the fucking parking lot. So I like reverb. Reverb is good. My third point, the original is loud. It's a wonderfully loud album. When you listen to it with headphones on, you take those headphones off and you are drained afterwards, but in such a great way. It's a great way to it's a great way to get out your emotions, your aggression, anything like that.
It's that feeling of that like satisfied tiredness of I just finished a amazing fucking album.
Absolutely. It is an experience. Yeah. It's an experience.
It is.
And finally, for an old lady like me, it's all about the nostalgia. So I remember when this came out. Mm-hmm. Story time with Rose. I remember walking into Musicland in our mall, and back then we had to buy albums in a music store. I mean, you could go on, Columbia Records, the music thing, and buy like 12 albums for a penny, and then you bought a bunch of albums that you never paid for ever again. That's why they went out of business. But we went into Musicland. We went into Sam Goody. We went into, I bought a lot of stuff from Target, because Target used to have an amazing music selection. Yeah. But I remember walking into Musicland in the mall and seeing the huge display of tapes and CDs with the In Utero poster hanging from the ceiling. And I remember the display it was practically ransacked, and employees were literally bringing out boxes of this album. And I remember somebody, I don't know if it was a manager or whatever, they're like, okay, who's here for In Utero? And people are going, me, and raising their hands. Who wants tapes? I want it on tape. Who wants it on CD? Me. And then there were people that bought it in both versions, Yeah. And they were literally ripping open the boxes and handing them to people. I got mine on cassette tape. I got it from Musicland out at the mall. Still have that tape. But it was so much fun to be a part of that. Are you here for tape? You want a tape? I'm like, I want a tape. Give me a tape, Heart-shaped box. That video was all over MTV. Oh, yeah. Nirvana's previous singles were still popular. Plus, you had the Unplugged show in New York. I mean, just sitting here talking about this, I'm just thinking about it. I'm thinking about when I watched Unplugged on MTV, staying up late and watching that. I mean, for 2 years, you could not escape Nirvana, even if you tried. You could not escape them. Yeah. They were everywhere. I was also really getting into punk when this album hit too. I purchased my first Ramones album early in 1993, and I was exploring that genre so much. The Sex Pistols. First come the Ramones, then come the Sex Pistols. Yep. I had read so much in interviews and articles about Seattle grunge having undertones of punk and Nirvana being influenced by punk. And I thought I understood that. I thought I understood the melding of those genres. But once I listened to In Utero, I got it.
You really got it.
I got it in capital letters. I could understand the punk sounds, the flow, the instrumentation. Nirvana took punk and mashed it with the Beatles, added some Led Zeppelin, a little dash of Aerosmith, and then you have the talents of those three guys. Yeah. And there you go. It's a timeless classic album. It's really one of those albums that I think everybody should have in their collection. In Utero, I really do. Oh yeah. That and Nevermind. I think those are two. Those are two essential albums. Yeah. Essential albums.
Oh yeah. Those belong right next to Appetite for Destruction.
Yep.
And
the Black Album. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Along with every single Beatles album too.
Yes.
That's all there is to it.
And if we're talking specifically about albums from the 90s, Bad Motorfinger by Soundgarden.
Oh yes, by Soundgarden.
And Dirt by Alice in Chains.
Yes, absolutely.
More essential 90s records.
Absolutely. Boy, we could do a whole podcast episode on that.
We could do a list of like 100 essential albums you need to have in your collection as a rock and roll fan.
Oh yeah, and our list would be so much better than Rolling Stones. Oops, did I just say that out loud? Oops. I did it again. I played with your heart. So that is our review of Nirvana's In Utero, the original, versus the 30th anniversary remaster. 30 years.
30 years of In Utero.
I can't tell you what I did 2 months ago, but I can tell you what I was doing in 1993. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. That's how my brain works.
Core memories and all that.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Now it is time for Metal Messages.
It's time for everybody's favorite segment.
Metal Messages.
Metal Messages. Okay, so to start this off, to say there's a ton of music news that's happened since the last time we did this podcast, I mean, that's an understatement.
And what's going on right now, though? I mean, this is all current shit.
This is so much current stuff that is in the vein of our, old head rock bands and stuff like that. It's insane. We want to touch upon a bit of everything, especially some stories that have affected the industry as of late, especially, with the bands we're into and stuff like that.
Yep.
We're both going to participate, so that way you don't have to listen to just my voice drone on for the whole time, and also so I don't get hoarse.
Nicker, nay.
So, we're going to start Metal Messages off on a bit of a sour note, honestly, because we have to start with some rather shocking and sad news. Steve Riley, who was the drummer for both LA Guns and Wasp, the former of which we've talked at length on in this podcast, he actually passed away on October 24th after a severe case of pneumonia.
That's terrible. That is so sad. I can't believe this.
Yeah, and of course we've talked about Steve a bit on here, especially when we did the LA Guns episode. Of course, the split between Tracy Gunn's LA Guns and Steve Riley's LA Guns. He was part of the band Wasp from 1984 to 87. Was part of LA Guns from 87 to 92. He was fired from the band, but then rejoined in 1994, staying with them until 2016. And then, of course, in 2019, he created his own version of LA Guns under the name Riley's LA Guns.
Yes.
As I think we mentioned before, his band was actually supposed to release an album in July of this year, but that has actually been pushed back until 2024. So we'll have to see when that does end up coming out.
I hope it does.
It does at all. I hope it does as well.
I hope it does.
Steve was surrounded by his family when he passed. We offer our condolences to them. Yes. Steve was 67.
I couldn't believe that when you told me that. Because you were flipping through your phone, you go, Steve Riley died. I'm like, what?
Because I was looking up... I don't remember exactly what we were talking about.
I don't either.
It was something having to do with like somebody from LA Guns is like something like how old are they?
I think I was looking up how old Tracy Guns is or something. Yeah, I do that every once in a while. Like how old is that person?
Like what have LA Guns been up to recently or whatever?
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's just like one of the headlines like drummer for LA Guns Steve Riley has passed away, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
And I went into the actual article, and I mean, like that was a real shock, honestly, to see.
His family wrote that he was a big World War II aficionado, and he was a voracious reader and loved to play drums, loved music. He was a great father. I'm sorry to hear this, and definitely condolences to his friends and family.
It's very sad to hear. Honestly.
It's very sad to hear.
Yeah, especially as a member of a band that me and Rose both enjoy. Seeing one of them go.
I love LA Guns.
Yeah, it hits a little closer to home. You know? But yeah, definitely. Really hate to see that.
Yeah.
So. We do have a little bit more shocking news, thankfully not as sad, but still interesting, concerning Slipknot. Their drummer of 10 years, Jay Weinberg, was fired by the band on November 5th.
Yeah.
According to USA Today, Weinberg wrote on his Instagram that he was, quote, heartbroken and blindsided by the news. And apparently Slipknot has stated that they want to evolve and that parting with Weinberg was a creative decision, which it...
Obviously, he didn't know about.
Yeah, at first, this was very out of the blue because it was just Slipknot fired the drummer.
Yeah.
That was all we got.
Yeah.
For like a week.
Yeah.
There was no statement from the band.
Nope.
There was
nothing.
There was nothing. There was no reason behind it. It was just Weinberg's out of the band.
Yeah.
After being there for so long.
Yeah.
And essentially replacing Joey Jordison.
Yeah.
Is the major drummer for the band, and yeah, it was a surprise. I have to admit, I'm a big Corey Taylor fan. I'm not the biggest into Slipknot.
Right, same here.
But I still kind of keep up with the band.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm a Corey Taylor fan. And that was a big surprise.
I tried to find out more information on it, but all I could come up with were articles about how Corey Taylor keeps his Grammy on the back of his toilet. So. Slipknot has won one Grammy. Corey's is on the back of his toilet.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Random fun fact, actually. Jay Weinberg is the son of Bruce Springsteen's drummer, Max Weinberg.
Yeah, I didn't know that until...
I didn't know either.
Yeah, until I was researching the story. I'm like, wait a minute, Max Weinberg, I know who he is. Yeah. So the drumming gene was passed from one generation to the next.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
In the We Love It When Old Musicians Fight news.
Woohoo! Ding, 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 ding! Boxing gloves.
Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth. The feud and comparison that's old as time. We're going at it again.
Some things never change. Macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, Hagar and Roth fighting. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
So apparently Hagar is actually touring in 2024. This tour will be a Van Halen-focused one, where he's going to be doing quite a few Van Halen songs. And Hagar said that for each stop, any musician who's in town can jump up on stage and jam. He said Alex Van Halen was welcome, along with David Lee Roth. And apparently Diamond Dave thought Hagar meant this was for the entire tour. No.
Yeah, no.
No. Hager responded by saying Roth was welcome as a guest only, and according to Ultimate Classic Rock, quote, he could come out and sing a song on a show or two if he can remember the words.
Ouch! Woo! I love it!
That part I didn't catch.
Woo!
Leading up to this.
Now, in more old musicians fighting news, there's no news on the McMars Motley Crue lawsuit, just that it is, quote, ongoing. Some cool news about McMars, though. He is getting ready to release a new solo album titled Another Side of Mars. Yep. He's currently talking with record labels who would be interested in releasing the album. As for touring, Mars says he's done with it, understandable, but would possibly do the occasional one-off show. Yeah. In addition, Mars recently sold all of his publishing rights to Motley Crue songs, which makes him happy, as he says he can now, quote, relax when it comes to this aspect.
Yeah, I mean, he's essentially completely severed himself from Motley Crue at that point.
He has.
And honestly, that seems to be kind of the best thing, because, I mean, they were certainly at odds.
Just a little bit.
To put it lightly. And Mick Mars is too old for this shit, basically.
He basically says that. He basically says he's very upfront about it. He's basically like, he goes, I probably only have about 7 or 8 years to live. Let's hope it's longer, but we know about his health conditions and stuff. Because he
has a medical, it's like a type of arthritis, right?
It is, where his spine fuses together, and it sounds incredibly painful.
Yeah, and that's another aspect is, why we can easily understand why he's done with touring.
Oh, yeah, I completely understand it. I wouldn't expect him
to... That's rough on the healthy person.
Oh, absolutely. And Mick has released the first single from his album. The single is titled Loyal to the Lie and is now available on Spotify. So check it out. That's something I need to do this weekend.
Loyal to the Lie. Oh, Motley Crue. As for Motley Crue itself, though, there's still no release date for the album.
Shocking.
Or how it will be released.
Shocking.
Meaning if it's available via streaming only.
Shocking.
John 5 says the new music is, quote, so good. Sharon Osbourne recently called Nikki Sixx an asshole on the new Osbourne's podcast. Rose, you wrote this, didn't you?
Yes, I did write this. I write all the scripts. Oh, they were just talking about, and if you haven't watched the Osbourne's podcast on YouTube, it's Jack, Kelly, Sharon, and Ozzy. Check it out. Oh my God, it's fun because I mean, the Osbournes are a national treasure as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what your opinion is on that, but that's all I care about.
Praise be Ozzy.
Absolutely. God bless Ozzy Osbourne. And they were talking about touring and Ozzy snorting ants and stuff like that. And Nikki and Sharon didn't get along. I mean, even Nikki talked a little bit about that in The Dirt and stuff. And Sharon called him an asshole. And Nikki responded on Twitter. And, oh, God, I just love it when old musicians fight. It's so great. All right.
Nikki Sixx needs to get his Twitter taken away. He's like a 13-year-old.
It may happen with the way Twitter X, whatever the fuck it is going. So
yeah.
Who knows?
We'll note this at the end of the show, by the way, but we don't have Twitter anymore. So.
No, we don't. Good riddance.
We were going to stick it out, but we didn't. So, in other news, it's time to get to Guns N' Roses here, because Axl Rose is being sued.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. So, according to American Songwriter... That's not a title for a person's name. That's actually a website.
It's a website, yeah.
A penthouse pet model by the name of Sheila Kennedy filed a suit in New York State alleging that Rose raped her back in 1989. This occurred after Kennedy met Rose in a club and he invited her back to his hotel room. Axl has denied these allegations, stating that they are, quote, completely made up. Rose further states he has no recollection of meeting her. The suit charges Rose with multiple accounts, including assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violence. It's interesting to note that this filing was made a day prior to the expiration of the New York State filing deadline.
That's all I'm going to say about that. So, Now I know this podcast focuses more on metal, but I'm an 80s girl at heart, and I love 80s new wave and pop. Of course, one of my XM channels is set to First Wave, and I still blast Wang Chung. So, this next story is a bit of a blow to this 80s girl, and it's also from the Truly Bizarre file. Daryl Hall of Hall & Oates has filed a restraining order against his musical partner, John Oates.
What?
According to the Associated Press, Hall is suing Oates because Oates is selling off his share of a joint business venture to a third party. Hall says doing so would violate the agreement they have. The restraining order is in place so Oates cannot complete the sale, so he can't do it. Currently, they're waiting on an arbitration to help with the process, and a hearing was set for November 30th. We're recording this on December 1st, so the hearing happened yesterday.
Yeah.
So we don't know the results yet. I honestly have not had time to go and look.
I honestly don't think they've come out yet.
I don't think that they have. I have not seen anything.
No.
So if you're not familiar with Hall & Oates, you should be though.
Yes.
They were a duo that was super popular in the 80s. Some of their songs include Kiss on My List, Man-Eater, Out of Touch, one of my favorite Hall & Oates songs. Mm-hmm. Seriously, go and check them out on Spotify. Yes. They were everywhere during that decade, dominated the charts on MTV constantly. They were great.
Man-Eater, you might actually recognize from I believe it was a Google Workspaces commercial or something like that.
Oh, really?
It was like, because you can type stuff out together.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, oh, here she comes. She's a man killer. And then you could see, and then the little name to the type came back, changed to Oates, and in backspace is like Gobbler, and then back to Hall. Eater, and then both their voices. She's a man-eater.
Oh, so nice!
You might recognize it from that commercial. That commercial is like 10 years old or some shit.
But a lot of their songs have also appeared in commercials.
Yes.
I mean, their music is really timeless.
You might remember it from there.
Yeah.
But if you don't, go check them out. Still, even if you do remember it, go check them out because Hall & Oates is great.
Oh, that is awesome.
But,
the thing is, too, is from a variety of interviews that I've read over the past few years, Daryl Hall wasn't really that happy with being part of a duo.
Really?
He viewed Oates as simply a business partner and not a friend. And yeah, and he also seemed to really downplay Oates' talent as a musician. So it bums my little cold heart to hear this because they're all over my 80s playlist on Spotify. I love their harmonies.
We've got a Sam and Dave situation.
I know.
All of a sudden here.
I know. It just so... I hope... I don't know. I hope they can work everything out. Yeah. But I'm going to go up and play Out of Touch later on.
Let's get into some fun news, though, shall we?
Yes. Okay.
Because we've got some really old musicians that are still kicking ass.
But we've got some really fun stuff here.
Yes.
So the Rolling Stones have released their latest album, Hackney Diamonds, in October. Yes. And, of course, they're going on tour. They will hit 16 cities across North America in 2024, playing places like Vegas and Los Angeles, going from April to July. Mm-hmm. And the sponsor for this tour? None other than AARP, the American Association of Retired Persons. And that's only because the makers of Geritol didn't ask first. I love it.
That's so fucking fun.
It's perfect. I love
Rolling Stones, a bunch of guys in their 70s, and they're sponsored by AARP.
Keith is going to be 80 here in December. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Alrighty, well...
More good news.
We've got some drumming news, guys.
Of course.
Mike Portnoy is back with Dream Theater!
Yay!
The news was announced on the band's website at the end of October, and according to an interview with Blabbermouth, Portnoy stated that he and the band members reconnected during the pandemic.
That's cool.
Portnoy was asked to play on John Petrucci's solo album and then go on tour as well. And he also confirmed that Dream Theater are going into the studio to record their 16th album.
That's awesome.
Now, of course... Mike Portnoy, he's in like 125 bands.
Oh, yeah.
He's always doing shit.
Oh, yeah.
He said he will continue with the Winery Dogs, who are currently touring in Japan.
They're a great band.
And he also has shows going on with Metal Legion's Flying Colors and doing the Cruise to the Edge in March, along with so much more. So
I thought Chris Jericho was busy.
I don't know when they're going to find time to get into the studio.
I don't know either.
Mike Portnoy will find a way. Cause,
he will.
He does all kinds of shit. Next up.
Speaking of studio,
this is
so
exciting
cool.
Here, we're big 4 of thrash metal news.
Yeah, Anthrax. They're now in the studio working on a new album. So Scott Ian, Charlie Benanate, and Frank Bello are in the studio laying down basic tracks. Guitarist Jonathan Donalds and vocalist Joey Belladonna will come in at a later date to do their respective parts. There is no title or release date at this time, but they have at least 11 songs, according to Scott.
And something else that is just as cool, Dave Grohl's hanging out with him in the studio. Talked about Nirvana all episode long, and we get some news from Dave Grohl as well.
Absolutely.
There's actually a video on Charlie Benate's Instagram of Dave Grohl playing on his drum kit.
It's so cool.
Playing just a fun little rough version of Scentless Apprentice.
Yep.
The intro to it, at least. There is no word on if Dave's going to appear on the new Anthrax album or not.
I'm all for it.
I am too.
Yeah.
If that were to happen, that'd be so fucking cool.
It would be. It would be. Oh, it'd be so great.
Yeah. We also have even more classic heavy metal news. New old bands still doing new stuff. Pantera is returning to the stage in February 2024 to continue their massively successful 20-city tour from this past summer. Woo-hoo! Charlie Benante, again, of Anthrax, and Zakk Wylde of Black Label Society and Ozzy Osbourne fame, again, is going to be joining original members Phil Anselmo and Rex Brown to kick off the second leg of their tour with Lamb of God.
Nice.
Additional supporting acts for that tour will be announced in the near future. The next leg of the tour will feature shows in Florida, Tennessee, New York, among other cities here in the States, as well as 3 shows in Canada, Toronto, Quebec City, and Winnipeg.
Off to the peg.
All the live footage I saw from this past summer was absolutely incredible. Yeah. So if you can secure a ticket, catch a show in any way, I highly recommend you do. Zakk Wylde is doing a fantastic job of filling in for Dimebag.
So is Charlie.
And Charlie is doing a great job filling in for Vinny, playing some songs that Pantera has not played live.
Yeah.
Had not played live in ages, you know?
Yeah.
Of course the band was awesome. Inactive for ages, but I mean, in terms of their actual active years, songs that they had not played for a long time still.
Absolutely.
They really picked 2 fantastic musicians.
They really did. I remember hearing about that, and I was so excited for both Charlie and Zakk.
I think we did a great job. Covered on Metal Messages when that was announced.
I think we did. I was very excited for that.
I have all of the Metal Messages in here somewhere.
So,
yeah. Moving on to, we have another awesome bit of news here from our old bands. New wave of British heavy metal band Saxon. Remember them from the 70s and 80s? They're still kicking with a brand new album, their 24th studio album, as a matter of fact, coming out January 19th, 2024, titled Hellfire and Damnation.
All right.
Name of the album actually comes from lead singer Biff Byford's childhood. Quote, I've had that saying in my head since I was a small boy because my dad used to say it when he was upset. He used to say, Hellfire and damnations, what's that been doing now? When I was messing up his cabbage patch or carving things into the kitchen table.
Carving things into the kitchen table.
Nice. It was a very Yorkshire saying back in the day. Of course, Saxon, Biff Byford came from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Over there in jolly old London, so... in Britain. So the first single, the title track, Hellfire and Damnation, is available now on YouTube, Spotify, and all your other favorite streaming services.
I need to check that out.
You should. It's fantastic. The track,
I'm sure it is.
The track keeps in line with the theme Saxon has been following for quite some time now. Power-charged guitars, epic soaring vocals from a 72-year-old man.
Nice.
Biff Byford just killing it, man. Pounding drums and just overall epic feel. It's a great sign for things to come. This latest release, man, it's fantastic.
That's awesome. And finally, to wrap up Metal Messages, we are very happy to hear that Kiss's Paul Stanley kicked flu in the ass and is back out on tour.
Yay, Paul Stanley.
Paul unfortunately was laid up for a bit with the flu, forcing Kiss to cancel 3 of their shows. Mm-hmm. He was not looking very good. He was on an IV. He took a picture. He took a selfie and posted it to his Instagram during the time, and the poor guy, he did not look good. He was very, very pale.
He was bedridden.
Yeah, he was bedridden.
For a bit.
But thankfully, all is well, and the band hit the stage in Indianapolis on November 25th with a very wild, solid show. And Kiss will finish up their very last tour ever here in December. They don't have very many days left, so if you want to catch Kiss one more time, snag a ticket and go out and see them.
Time is running out.
Time is running out, and time is pretty much out for this episode.
Yes.
So our next episode, episode 12, we each create our own best of compilation of Metallica's Load and Reload albums.
During our off time, we had plenty of time to come up with new fun ideas, and this was one of them among many others. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to this very much to see our own personal picks for a best 12 from those 2 albums.
Absolutely,
those sister albums from Metallica.
And it will be out sometime here in December. Our goal is to have it out by the very end of the month, but it may come out earlier. So just keep an eye on our page here on Spotify.
Yes.
So we toss Twitter, Tweet, X, Porno X, whatever the hell that site is called anymore. The one that Elon Musk has run to the ground or whatever.
Yep.
It's gone. We still have our email address if you want to talk to us. And I encourage you, please do so.
Yeah.
It is RTI_official @yahoo.com.
Yes.
Also, tap that follow button at the top of our page on Spotify so you have another way to stay up to date as to when new episodes post.
Yes, and of course, again, we are going to be releasing these episodes on YouTube from now on. So feel free to post comments and post comments, talk to us, ask us questions, whatever.
Give us a thumbs up if you like what you hear.
Give us ideas, give us a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel
Please do.
That's another way to keep up with that'll be another way to keep up with the podcast in the future, and also just see what type of wacky shit I get up to in my off time, what type of creative projects I'm working on.
And he works on a lot of stuff.
So any sort of music, if this interests you at all, any sort of music that I do once finished will be released on that YouTube channel.
Woo-hoo.
So another place to get another slice of the fun from us here at Ride the Illusion Podcast.
It's great to be back.
It really is.
I'm glad we're doing this again.
Yeah.
I know it's not going to be as many episodes or as frequent, but we're here.
It's a good time.
And you can go back and listen to all of our past episodes. The first 10 are available on Spotify.
Yes.
We are going to get on and number them so that way they're easier to follow and find.
Yes. And I do want to say too, those first 10 are going to remain on Spotify.
Yes.
They will not be moving to YouTube.
No.
It'll just be episodes from now on that'll be posted to YouTube. So
Absolutely.
If you want to go back and listen to the very first season and see how things were different from now, you're going to have to go to Spotify
to do that.
So,
all right. So thank you, as always, for listening. We appreciate it. And remember, keep it cranked.